Hello, I'm Linda Williams. This video is going to be about de-escalating an angry situation with an upset parent. So the first thing I want to tell you is that when a parent comes in and they're upset, and if they are yelling at you or being disrespectful, you have every right to set some boundaries and to say, we'll continue this conversation, but you need to speak with me in a respectful manner. You need to lower your voice. Most of the time when you do this, the parent who doesn't realize they've been yelling will calm down and tell you their story respectfully. If they do not, be prepared to say, well, then we'll need to have this conversation at another time. Please go to the office and make an appointment so we can have a conversation with the principal present. And as you say this, I would suggest you, if you're in your classroom, walk towards the door and then towards the office as you're talking to them. You'll be giving them body language that this conversation is over and that I do want to hear what you have to say, but my boundary is sincere. You need to be respectful to me. Like I said, most of the time, the parent will take a deep breath and calm down and will tell you about their concerns. Okay, the next thing that's really important to remember is you want to give the parent your undivided attention. So you're not on a cell phone, you're not looking at papers, you're not doing anything else. You're looking right into their eyes and listening to them. The parent needs to feel heard at this point. So you're going to put yourself in a listening place where you're doing active listening techniques. So you're going to ask questions. Tell me more about what happened. Where did this happen? When did this happen? Who was involved? Tell me more about how this made you feel. And you're going to ask questions to get them to talk. You're going to nod and use body language like you're listening, and you're going to take in what they're saying. This is not the time to tell your own story or to tell them another side of it. Right now, you're just listening. You'll want to use a few reflective listening techniques, such as repeating back what they've said. Your daughter was really upset after recess yesterday. Your son came home and said that someone had been unkind to him on the playground. And you're just repeating back for clarification. And if you don't understand something, say, tell me more about this part, and let them continue to talk. As they talk, you'll see that they'll start to relax because they're able to share what's on their mind and what they're concerned about. You're just listening right now. There's another couple of techniques you can use to help you connect to parents who are upset, or anyone that's upset, really. The first one comes from Neurolinguistic Programming, which is a small piece of Ericksonian hypnosis. And what you do in this is when you're talking to the person you want to connect with on a subconscious level, you want to mirror their stance and their body language. So if they have one hand on their hip while they're talking, you put one hand on your hip while they're talking. If they brush the hair out of their face, you brush the hair out of your face. And you just keep listening while you're doing this. Now, if they do something that's sort of angry, like point a finger, don't do that because you're trying to diffuse the situation. So you don't want to mirror any behavior that looks hostile. But this will help at a subconscious level the parent to feel connected to you. Another thing you can do, and this is kind of funny because this comes from hostage negotiation, but you're going to repeat the last few words that they say. So it's a little bit like reflection. Like I hear you saying that your daughter was upset after recess, but you're only going to say the last few words. So if they say, she felt left out when the kids didn't play with her, I just repeat, the kids didn't play with her, and nod my head. If he says, well, he gets so frustrated when he can't do the work, I just go, yeah, he can't do the work. And I'm just repeating those few words and nodding and looking them in the eye and listening. Again, what this does is gives them a chance to connect um, and to feel heard. So I'm going to listen in this entire conversation. I'm not going to bring up that Jimmy doesn't do his homework or that she often starts the conflicts on the playground. I'm not going to bring up any of that. I'm just going to listen to what they have to say. I'm going to express empathy. Oh, I'm sorry they were so upset. And then when I feel like the parent has calmed down and told me everything that they wanted to tell me, then I tell them that I want a little time to think about this. I want to follow up with this, and I want to talk to them again in a couple days, but I need to think about this a little bit. Maybe I need to speak with my principal about policies, or maybe I need to speak to another teacher that was there during the situation. So I have a little bit more information, and that I would like to speak to them again about this. And I ask them if I can call them, or I make another appointment with them. And what this does for your parents is it lets them know you took them seriously and that you want to talk with them again about this situation. It also gives them a chance to calm down and put a little distance between this moment where they were very upset and the moment when you talk about some other issues. So you'll have that second meeting with them. When you speak to them again, thank them for coming in. Thank them for bringing this to your attention if it was something you weren't aware of. Thank you for sharing your concerns with me about this. Then I want you to start the conversation with saying something great about their kid. Every child, you can find something wonderful to say, and it doesn't have to be related to the context of the current conversation. I can say, she has a lovely singing voice. Or every time we do science, he gets so excited. He has such a great mind for that kind of thing. And just let them know something positive about their child before you begin anything else. Then this is where you can say, I have a little bit more information. I talked to Mrs. Jones, who was on the playground when this happened, and Mrs. Jones said that he actually pushed the other child first. And I wonder why he wouldn't share that part of the story with you, and just kind of put it out there as another piece of information, another piece to this puzzle. He's very bright, but I was just looking at his grades for this week, and he's missing 3 assignments. And I think it's because he's very chatty. So he can do the work, but he often doesn't finish it because he's so busy chatting with his friends. So you're using descriptive language instead of when you're describing their child's behavior or problem or anything. You're using what did I see? I observed this. I observed that he gets up and walks around the class a lot while we're supposed to be doing seat work. Or I observed that he often has difficulty sharing the PE equipment with the other children. So you're just kind of describing what you're seeing, and then you ask for their input. Do you have anything to add to this? Do you have anything more you can tell me about this situation? Do you have any suggestions for how I could get him to stay on task and do his assignments? So you're asking. It doesn't mean you're going to do exactly whatever they suggest, but you are hearing them and valuing their input and getting them on the same side that you're on to address this problem together. So this helps you, again, feel like you and the parent are on the same team trying to make what's right for this child. So then you come up with your plan, whatever it is that needs to be addressed. There's all kinds of things that parents come in upset about. Many of them have nothing to do with you. It might be something that happened with another teacher or with another child, or it might even be that they don't, you're sending too many assignments to do at home, and it's cutting into family time. So they might think they're mad at you, but they really aren't. They're just mad at the situation. So I had a very irate parent come in to speak to me one day. He was just livid, and he was yelling and angry. And I asked him, could you please calm down? I want to hear about your concern. I want to hear what's going on, but you're going to have to calm down and tell me this in a more calm voice. He wasn't really yelling at me, but he was yelling. And he did. He took a deep breath and he calmed down and he said, when there was a substitute yesterday, the substitute told my daughter, an African American girl, that slavery wasn't that bad, and that some of the slave owners were nice, and that some of the slaves wanted to be there. And of course, I didn't know anything about this incident having happened. I was floored, and I said, I am so sorry that happened. That would upset me too. I understand why you're upset by this. I understand why your daughter was upset by this. I'm upset by this. I'm upset that my whole class heard this, not just your daughter. And so I reassured him that I would take this to the principal and let the principal know what happened. I also told the father that I could not convey to him what ends up happening to the sub because that would be confidential. But I did want to assure him that I would pass this on to the proper authorities. And then lastly, I told him that I would have a conversation with my students about slavery and about slavery being an evil institution and how horrible it was. And I just let him know that I would have that conversation with the students and correct what was said. I can't fix it. I mean, I can't undo the damage, but I can make sure that they know that not all teachers think that way. And I invited the parent to come and be a part of that conversation. He didn't come, but he seemed really relieved that I was going to talk to the students about this. And so it ended up being a whole unit we did so that the students understood a little bit more about slavery being an evil institution. And what he said when he left was what he needed was a white teacher to speak into his daughter's life and say, this history was not okay. This was wrong for this to happen. And I was willing to do that. So I was glad he gave me the opportunity to do that. Sometimes when a parent comes in, they mainly just need to be heard. So remember, your first job to diffuse a situation is to set the boundaries. Then it's to hear the parent, use those techniques, reflective listening, repeating back the last few words, mirroring the physical body language, and let them know that you hear them and that you understand their concerns. Don't offer your own input or get defensive with them. You can add in other information at another time, because when you're dealing with an upset parent, that's not the time for you to say, yeah, but you should see how little effort he puts into his work. You should save that for a completely different conversation. So that is my take on addressing an angry parent and trying to de-escalate a situation. I know there are other things you can do, but remember what I said in the first video is establishing a good relationship with the parent in the first place will make these conversations much easier. And so you want to work first on establishing a positive relationship and rapport with the parent. Let them know you're open to their input and their insights. Let them know you're flexible with family issues. If a child comes to school without their book because the parent, they live in two different households and the parent drove off with their book last night, that's not their fault. Be reflective, be sincere, say, okay, it's okay. So you don't have your book. You can share with someone else today. And just be understanding of family situations. All of this will go a long way to de-escalating situations and preventing situations. When you do have an upset parent, you need to listen and hear them and repeat back what you hear and ask questions. Tell me more. What was this all about? How did she feel about that? And get them to talk about their feelings and their child's feelings. Thank you for listening. I'm Linda Williams.